My name is Ethan. I'm 27 years old, and this story takes place in the summer when I finally learned to enjoy the little things in life. The beginning. It was late May when I noticed how tired I was. Not tired in the usual way, like after work or after a long walk. No, it was a deeper kind of tiredness. My days all looked the same. Wake up, go to the office, answer emails, eat lunch at my desk, come home, heat up leftovers, watch TV, and go to bed. I lived in a quiet apartment building just outside Portland, Oregon. The city was green, full of trees and rain, but I barely noticed. I was too busy scrolling on my phone, waiting for the next workday to begin again. One evening, I looked at the reflection of my face in the dark laptop screen. My eyes looked heavy. My shoulders felt stiff. And I thought, is this really all I'm doing at 27? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the soft rain outside and made a small promise to myself. This summer, I would do something different. Not something dramatic. No moving across the country, no new career overnight. Just small changes. The first change, morning walks. The next morning, I set my alarm 30 minutes earlier than usual. At 6:30 a.m., the air was still cool. I put on my sneakers, grabbed an old hoodie, and stepped outside. The street was quiet. A few cars drove by, but mostly I heard birds and the soft sound of rain dripping from leaves. I walked slowly at first, then a little faster. By the time I returned home, my body felt lighter. I made coffee, opened the window, and felt like I had already done something before the day had even started. That first walk became the beginning of a routine. Every morning, I walked for 20 or 30 minutes. I noticed things I had ignored before. A dog waiting patiently for its owner outside the bakery. A kid riding his bike with a backpack bigger than his body. The smell of fresh bread when I passed the corner cafe. The world was alive, and I had been missing it. The second change, lunch outside. At work, I usually ate lunch at my desk, staring at spreadsheets. But one Tuesday, I grabbed my sandwich and walked to a small park near the office. I sat on a bench under a big oak tree. Families with children were playing on the grass. Two older men played chess on a stone table. I chewed slowly, watching the world. Something about eating outside made the sandwich taste better. The bread felt fresher, the tomatoes sweeter. I thought, why have I been eating alone in front of a screen all this time? From then on, I tried to eat outside at least twice a week. Sometimes I sat alone. Sometimes a coworker joined me. But every time, I felt calmer when I returned to the office. The third change, saying yes. I have always been the kind of person who says no without thinking. Want to grab a drink tonight? No, I'm tired. Want to try that new taco place? No, maybe another time. Want to join the company softball team? Definitely no. But one Friday, my coworker Sarah asked, "Hey Ethan, some of us are going to trivia night at the pub. Want to come?" My first thought was the usual no. But then I remembered my promise. Small changes. So I said sure. Why not? That night, I found myself sitting with 5 coworkers, drinking root beer, and trying to remember who painted the Mona Lisa. I didn't know much, but I laughed when someone shouted Picasso with too much confidence. We didn't win, but I felt good walking home. It was different, and different was good. Meeting Jacob. One Saturday morning in June, I was on my walk when I saw a guy sitting on a bench sketching in a notebook. His hair was messy, and he wore a jacket full of paint stains. As I passed, I glanced at his paper. It was a drawing of the same street we were on, the trees, the lamppost, even the little cracks in the sidewalk. That's really good, I said, surprising myself. Normally, I wouldn't talk to strangers. He looked up and smiled. Thanks. I'm Jacob. I introduced myself, and somehow we started talking. He told me he was an art student, doing sketches for a summer project. I told him about my morning walks. We ended up sitting there for almost an hour, talking about art, movies, and the best places to get coffee in the city. From that day, Jacob and I met almost every weekend. He would sketch, and I would bring coffee. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just sat in silence, watching the world. The fourth change, cooking. At home, I was tired of microwaving frozen meals. One Sunday, I decided to cook something from scratch. I searched online for a simple recipe, pasta with vegetables and garlic sauce. I cut the onions too thick, burned the first batch of garlic, and dropped a piece of zucchini on the floor. But in the end, I had a steaming plate of food that smelled amazing. When I took the first bite, I smiled. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Cooking became another small change. Every Sunday, I tried a new recipe: chicken stir-fry, lentil soup, homemade pizza. I made mistakes every time, but slowly I got better, and I felt proud each time I sat down with a plate I had made myself. July heat. By July, the summer heat had arrived. The mornings were bright and warm, the evenings long and golden. Jacob invited me to a local art fair downtown. The streets were full of paintings, jewelry, handmade clothes, and live music. I bought a small watercolor painting of the river. It wasn't expensive, but I liked it. I hung it above my desk at home. At the fair, we bumped into two of Jacob's friends, Maria and Kevin. They invited us to join them for iced coffee. I hesitated. New people usually made me nervous, but I remembered my promise again. Say yes. So I said yes. That afternoon, we sat outside a cafe, sweating in the heat, laughing about childhood memories. I realized how long it had been since I had made new friends. It felt good. The bike. One weekend, I saw a second-hand bike for sale outside a garage. It was old, a little rusty, but only $40. I bought it. That evening, I rode down the quiet streets near my apartment. The air rushed past my face, warm and soft. I hadn't ridden a bike since high school. I felt like a kid again. Soon, biking became my new hobby. I rode along the river, through parks, even to the grocery store. My legs hurt, but in a good way. A rainy day? In late July, after weeks of sunshine, the rain returned. Normally, I would have stayed inside. But instead, I put on my hoodie and went for a walk anyway. The rain was soft, the air smelled fresh, and the streets were shiny with reflections. I passed a bakery and saw steam rising from the windows. Inside, people were drinking coffee and laughing. I didn't go in. I just kept walking, but I felt strangely alive. The city looked different in the rain, like a secret version of itself. A small scare. Not everything was easy that summer. In early August, I had a small health scare. One morning, my chest felt tight, and I panicked. I went to urgent care, worried it was something serious. The doctor listened carefully, did some tests, and finally said, "You're okay. Just stress, maybe a bit of acid reflux. Take it easy." I walked out of the clinic with shaky legs, but also with a strange sense of relief. Life suddenly felt fragile, like it could change at any moment. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. The sky was pink and orange. I thought, I don't want to waste my days anymore. The picnic. The next weekend, Jacob and I, along with Maria and Kevin, planned a picnic by the river. We brought sandwiches, fruit, chips, and lemonade. We spread out a blanket and ate while watching boats pass. Kids ran around with kites. A dog chased a ball into the water. At one point, Maria asked, "So, Ethan, what's your big plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Normally, that question made me freeze. But this time, I just said, honestly, I don't know, but I'm learning to enjoy the little things first. They all nodded. Kevin said, "That's a good plan." The last change, writing. One evening in August, I bought a simple notebook. I decided to write 3 sentences every night about my day. The first entry was short. Today I walked by the river. I saw two ducks. I felt calm. Over time, the sentences grew longer. I wrote about my morning walks, my cooking experiments, the way the air smelled after rain, the laughter of new friends. Writing helped me see the beauty in small things. The end of summer. By the end of August, summer was almost over. The mornings were cooler. The days were shorter. One evening, I rode my bike to a hill outside the city. From the top, I could see the skyline glowing in the sunset. I thought about the person I had been in May, the tired version of myself who felt stuck. I wasn't a completely different person now. I still worked at the same office. I still had worries and lazy days. But I had made small changes. Walks, cooking, saying yes, friends, writing. And those small changes made me feel alive again. Reflection. Looking back, I realized something important. You don't need a big move or a dramatic life change to start fresh. Sometimes, the smallest steps, like walking in the morning, trying a new recipe, or saying yes to trivia night, are enough to open the door to something new. That summer taught me how to live more slowly, more openly, more fully. And when September came, I wasn't sad that summer was ending, because I knew the little changes would stay with me, even in the fall, winter, and all the seasons ahead.